I just replaced my third lavatory drain. The finish had deteriorated over the last 10 years. I learned a lot of things not to do, and hopefully this video will help you avoid the same mistakes that plagued me. This video is really for the rest of us, those who have done very little plumbing but are willing to attack this fairly simple job. If you need help, just send a comment to the video. Here is the old drain before I replaced it. Here is a new drain disassembled with one of the tools used. The first thing to do is put a pan under it, because when you disconnect the P-trap, water will run out. Start by trying to loosen this nut. You will probably find you can't do it by hand, and you'll have to use a tool. I used a chain wrench. Use the chain wrench, wrap the chain around the nut, then put the hook at the end of the shiny part around the nearest axle on the chain. As shown in the picture, you would then push down on the handle to turn a nut clockwise. Turn the wrench over to turn a nut counterclockwise. Use any tool that'll fit that size nut. To loosen this nut, you turn it this way. Once you have that nut loose, you'll need to loosen this nut, which you may be able to do with your fingers, or you can certainly do with a set of channel locks. To loosen this nut, you turn it this way. Once both nuts are loose, drop the P-trap straight down, and if you're lucky, there will be room to pull it out sideways then. On two of my drains, this pipe inside of this tube wouldn't let me pull the drain out sideways after I loosened the nuts and dropped the P-trap. The solution to that is unscrew the pipe. So you unscrew the pipe right here, let it drop into the tube. The old one you don't have to worry about scratching, so you can use a wrench on it if you need. And remember, you'll be turning it this way to loosen it. Let it drop into the pipe, then you should be able to just pull the P-trap out easily. If you have to do it that way, you'll have the same problem when you reassemble the new one. After you've disassembled the P-trap, you'll have to take this off. Just turn the nut that's on the back of the fitting where the rod goes into the stopper and remove it. Just pull it straight out. You'll probably be able to do it without disconnecting anything here, but you are going to want to disconnect this part because you're going to replace the rod and everything from the rod across. You keep the old hardware and remember which hole it went through so you won't have to readjust everything after you put it in. You need to keep the old hardware because the knob on top will match your faucet. Once you have this off and that off, you're ready to remove the drain from the sink. Use this tool to loosen this nut. The way to use the wrench, you loosen this thumb screw, you tighten the worm gear on the nut, then you tighten the wing nut to hold everything together. Unscrew the nut as far as it will go. Then push the rubber washer that's on top of the nut all the way down to the nut. All the way down. Use a putty knife or screwdriver to pull the rubber washer down. You need that clearance because for the next step, you'll grab this with a pair of pliers, and vice grips work nicely. Rotate it back and forth to loosen the putty that'll be under the flange on top of the sink. Once the putty's loose, shove this up as far as it goes until the unscrewed nut and washer are against the bottom of the sink, and this is above the putty that's there. Grip this carefully with pliers and loosen it. Remember, you're holding the bottom with a pair of vice grips probably. When you're unscrewing that ring on top of the sink, be very careful not to damage the sink top with your pliers you're using to unscrew it. That's why you need all the clearance you can get, and you have to screw the nut all the way down and push the washer all the way down so that when you shove the up, you have a lot of clearance to get pliers on this thing on top. On two of mine, I couldn't loosen it. If you can't unscrew the top, you'll have to saw the pipe across right under the sink and above the nut and washer. I find a reciprocating saw works very well to do that. If you have to do that, saw it, then you can just pull the top part out and pull the bottom part out. If you can unscrew it, fine, then just pull the old one down out of the hole and you're done there. This picture shows the hole in the sink with the drain installed. Remember, you just removed the drain. You need to clean that hole out from both top and bottom with paper towels to get rid of all the old putty and all the junk that's inside the drain. There will be some gunk inside where the overflow water comes down from the sides of the hole, so be sure you clean it all out. That will cut down the smell of the newly installed drain. To install the new drain, as you have it disassembled like this, unscrew the top flange, put a bead of putty around the hole on top so that when you shove this up, it won't interfere with the putty, but it'll cover underneath where the flange will be installed. So push it up through the ring of putty that you have on top of the sink, hand tighten the flange on top, and you have just enough clearance to do that without screwing the putty up. Make sure this is turned so that this fitting points toward the back of the sink, and then push the flange down into the putty firmly. Keep this from turning, probably with a set of ice grips on it, while you use this wrench to tighten this nut up. I should point out that the instructions for assembling this thing did not include this washer, so I removed it. The upper flat rubber washer, I removed that. And also you need that extra clearance to install the ring. So remove that washer. Push the drain up through the hole with a beveled washer sitting on the nut. Screw that on, push it down into the putty, tighten the nut up with the wrench, and then you screw this in this direction until it very snugly pushes the tapered washer against the bottom of the sink. Then you'll go ahead and assemble the stopper and the control rod for it. Drop this down, turn so that the hole in it faces the same direction as this fitting here. So the hole will face the fitting. You'll be able to see it, that's why this is disassembled. Wiggle it around, put this concave washer in this hole so that the concave side's out. Shove this piece, the short end of this rod, through the washer and into the hole in the stopper. Hold it in place, put the other washer on with the concave side facing the ball, put the nut over it and finger tighten it. You want it tight enough so that if you push the stopper up and you let go, it won't fall back down, but you don't want it so tight that it's hard to move the stopper up and down by pulling on the lever. You can wait and adjust the tension on the nut until after you finish connecting the hardware if you want. Once you've got the rod installed, stick it through the same hole in the perforated strip here that the old hardware went through. Clip it with this. You slip one end over the rod, you fold it around the perforated strip so that you can slip the other end over the rod on the other side of the perforated strip. Position it so it won't tend to come out when you raise and lower the stopper. And again, once you have it, the hardware connected, adjust it so you can easily pull the stopper up and down with the handle on top of your sink. But if you let go of the handle, the thing won't fall back down. If it does, you've got this too loose and you just need to tighten it. But don't tighten it too much. If you didn't have to unscrew the chrome pipe from the old drain to remove the P-trap, you can go ahead and install that pipe now. You'll have to put 4 or 5 turns of the Teflon tape around the threads first, and they will go this direction so that when you turn the pipe, it won't disturb the Teflon tape. So screw this in hand tight. Don't use a tool on it. Before you install the P-trap, make sure that you put a bead of plumber's putty around the upper part of this end of the P-trap. Just a small bead of the rubber putty all the way around where it will mate with the pipe that goes into the wall. Now, if you've already installed the chrome tube because you know you can fit the P-trap on with that tube installed, go ahead and just slip the P-trap tube up over the chrome tube, line it up so that the two pieces join here, and start to screw this on. It will go this way to screw onto the pipe. So get it started, make sure everything's lined up right, get this one started. It turns this way to screw down. And remember, of course, before you put the P-trap up over the tube, you do have to put this nut on this tube. So tighten up both those nuts finger tight. Do not use a tool on them. If they leak later when you test them, then maybe you can tighten them a little bit with a wrench, but for now, hand tight. Now, if you had to leave the chrome tube uninstalled because you had to take it out of the old one to get the P-trap off, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to stick the chrome pipe down inside the P-trap with the nut on top of it, facing in the right direction to screw on, and you're going to have to hold those up here, hold the projecting part of the pipe where it goes past the P-nut, hold them while you line everything up. And probably better if you go ahead and get this nut started while you're holding it like that. But then you're going to have to screw the chrome pipe in. And it is tricky, but it can be done. And it'll take you a while to get it started straight because the threads are so fine. So then screw it in. Remember, you have to have already put the Teflon tape on at this point before you try to assemble it. So screw it all the way up hand tight. Don't use a wrench on the chrome tube. And then go ahead and after that's screwed in, tighten this nut, hand tight. Now you're finished, and what you have to do is run the water, and I would recommend hot water because it's probably a better test. Run water for 10 or 15 minutes to see if it drips anywhere from the drain. So leave the drain open, let the water run through for at least 10 or 20 minutes. If nothing leaks, you're finished. If you have a very slight leak, and it's either this connection with this plastic nut or this connection, you can tighten those nuts slightly, maybe with a tool, maybe with your hands, to see if you can get the leak to stop. If you can't, you're going to have to maybe take it apart, look at all the threads and everything, make sure you haven't done anything wrong. Maybe scrape everything off of this connection here and put more putty on it. If none of that works, you might have to replace the P-trap. You could have a leak up here, but that would be unlikely. If you do have a leak right here, you could always tighten this up slightly. But again, don't over-tighten things. You are using a tool to tighten this one. But you only use a tool on these two as a last resort if you have a leak you can't stop by hand tightening. Well, I put 3 of them together. I had no leaks on any of them after I put them together, so I hope that anybody watching this video won't have any trouble either. And that's pretty much it. When you finish those steps, you have finished installing the new sink drain. And if you have any questions at all during the installation, just send me a comment and I'll be happy to answer them. If you enjoyed this Tom's Tech Notes video, please like it and please leave a comment. To watch my other videos or to read many computer help articles, please visit my YouTube channel or my website. You can also click links in the video description. When thumbnails appear, click the thumbnail at upper left to watch other videos related to this one. Click at lower left to watch a video specially recommended for you. Click my photo to visit the Tom's Tech Notes channel. To subscribe, please click the red button. If you don't see the red button, hover over my photo to show it.